Hello everybody, we're back in the garden with Millie this morning. Our book today is a fairy tale called The First Forest, but we're going to use this fairy tale as our inspiration for what we're going to do with our science lesson today. Today we're going to talk about the difference between trees that have needles and that are evergreen and trees that lose their leaves in the fall. So we'll put Millie away because it's a hot day, and then we'll get started. So our story today is a little bit of a departure from what we usually read in the STEM lab. In the STEM lab, we usually read non-fiction books. So we usually read books that are based in truth and science. But today, I've chosen a folktale or a fable called The First Forest. And this book uses a story to explain why some leaves stay green all winter and some trees lose their leaves. But then we're going to let Millie explain to us the science behind why there's those two different types of trees. So we've got The First Forest by John Guile and illustrated by Tom Heflin. If you wonder in winter when you walk in the snow why some trees stand naked while cold north winds blow, come with me to visit a woodland I know where the first trees were made long, long ago. To get there, just place your hand over your eyes and imagine a tree, any shape, any size, a muscular monster of leafy disguise, or a short, chubby shrub with a prickly surprise. Then imagine another and do it again. Keep imagining trees just as fast as you can. Before long, you'll arrive, if you follow my plan, in the first forest where all tree making began. The tree maker made the first trees with great care, with their roots in the ground and their branches in the air. He gave them strong trunks and green clothes to wear, and made certain that all they would need was there. He let each tree choose what it would become, a spruce or a maple, a pine or a plum. There were hundreds of choices they could pick from, and each choice was sure to be pleasing to some. The tree maker saw that his forest was good, and was pleased as his trees shared their new brotherhood. Right, you can see the leafy trees are getting along with the needle trees. He helped each tree learn how to grow as it should, changing water and sunlight and soil to wood. Each day in the forest was happy and peaceful. Each day, each tree grew more stately and graceful. Till one sad day, all spiteful and hateful, created a scene nothing short of disgraceful. If the sun makes me grow, some heard one tree say, I'll be biggest and best if I catch every ray. So he stretched out his limbs and shoved others away, and the peace of the forest was ended that day. Soon other trees followed, that trees lead like sheep. They pushed and they shoved, making wounds that went deep. Broken limbs and dead leaves were knocked off in a heap. It was so sad, it made the willow trees weep. When the tree maker came to his forest that night, his beautiful trees were an ugly sight. They were twisted and bare and shaking with fright, except for a few who'd stayed out of the fight. The sight of this mess made the tree maker mad, but the plight of the trees made the tree maker sad. His heart broke in two. He felt so bad when he thought of the beauty his trees had once had. Slowly he started to clean up the mess that had changed his woods into wilderness. He chased away greed and selfishness and bound up each wound with tenderness. Then the tree maker did what was hardest of all. He punished the trees who took part in the brawl. He ruled that the selfish ones, big and small, would lose every leaf from their limbs every fall. He rewarded the trees who stayed calm and serene while the others were being so selfish and mean, with a promise that they would remain evergreen through summer and winter and seasons between. And that's why in the winter, when you walk in the snow, some trees stand stark naked while the cold winds blow. But each spring, the tree maker lets his love show when he gives back their beauty and makes new leaves grow. So, I went through my yard and I took samples of some of the trees from the story. These are from different evergreens. And these are the trees that in our story were peaceful and calm and didn't fight their neighbors. So in our story, they were rewarded with keeping their leaves and needles and staying evergreen. And then here are some samples of some trees who maybe thought it would be a good idea not to share with their neighbors. And these are the trees who lose their leaves every fall. So you can kind of see the difference, right? Generally, trees that lose their leaves have these broad, flat leaves. And trees that get to stay green keep their leafy needles. And I'm going to let Millie explain to you why that is. She knows a lot about this.
Instead of leaves that change beautiful colors in the fall, some trees have needles instead. These evergreen needle-making trees are called conifers. But why do some trees have needles instead of leaves? The simplest answer? Because it helps them to survive. These special trees have many qualities that help them survive in places that other plants might find difficult. Their needles do the same job as their flat-leafed cousins. It's their job to make food for the tree. These needles offer some nifty advantages over regular flat leaves. Number 1, needles have a waxy coating that holds in more water. This helps the trees live in cooler, drier places. Number 2, since they're green all year long, they have all year to capture sunlight. Number 3, instead of shedding leaves every fall, these needle-bearing trees can hold their needles for up to 4 years, so the tree can take its time growing from season to season. Number 4. The needles are tough and difficult for insects to eat. Number 5. Many of these needle-bearing trees grow where the weather can be cold, snowy, windy, and icy. The shape of the needles helps snow slide off and wind pass through. This makes it easier for them to survive stormy winters.
So that was a lot of information that Millie gave us about evergreen trees. I actually learned a lot listening to her. I thought it would be fun to take our evergreen specimens that we've been using to compare their different kinds of leaves and actually use them in a little bit of a tool making activity. We're going to make a artist brush, or a few of them, out of these different kinds of needles. And then we'll paint with them and we'll compare and see which ones work best. So I went ahead and I mixed my watercolors. I've got blue, yellow, and red. And these are just food coloring because my house is already a mess. I didn't want to go digging out the paints. But if you have real paint, by all means, go ahead and use it. So the first thing we're going to do is to actually take a look at the twigs that we've cut off the tree, because you could just pick off the extra branches and make yourself a handle this way. So that's certainly one way to make your tree branch brush. Right? See? Just like that. All I did was pick off the needles at the top of the branch, and then at the base of the branch we could use that as a brush. So this comes from one tree. Now this one is a little bit swoopier. It might be a little bit hard to manage. So for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick them off up at the top. And then I'm going to cheat. I'm going to bundle them, and this might be a place where a grown-up has to help you. I'm going to bundle them and wrap them up with a rubber band. So we're going to rubber band these brushes. And this is, yeah, definitely for a grown-up. But if you don't have a grown-up to help you, because, you know, everybody's mom and dad is busy working from home these days, just go ahead and pick off the sides. That's something you could do by yourself. So here we've got another brush. We'll sweep these things out of the way. So I went out to my front to get a sample of this plant, and I don't even know what it is. I have to look it up, but can you see what I found on the underside? If I'm not mistaken, these are baby pine cones. Either that or they're berries. I'm gonna have to look it up and see, or we'll just watch them on the tree and see what happens. But we're gonna be doing more with pine cones and trees. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one for when we do our pine cone day. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. So you can see these needles have a lot of space in between them. So we're going to do the same sort of thing that we did before. We're going to cut them. This one kind of looks like a tree you might have maybe at Christmas. And then we're going to take this stick and we'll do the same sort of thing. Bundle them together. Put this stick on it. And then take a rubber band. So now we've got our brushes. And what makes this a STEM activity is its tool usage. And the tools that we're using here are paintbrushes. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint, and you can compare and see which brushes you like best. I already see a way I'm going to have to improvise. This one's too big to fit in the container, so I'm going to clip some of these to make it smaller.